Our final speakers are Elizabeth and Tony Aviles. Buckner placed them with twin boys at birth, and their names are Elijah and Isaiah. Elizabeth is a piano teacher, and Tony is a pastor.
I get my own mic. You don't do that to a pastor. All right, so we just wanted you guys kind of, hey buddy. Okay. We just wanted you guys to kind of get a chance to see who our family is. And this is Isaiah, and this is Elijah. There will be a test before you pick up your t-shirt, so make sure that you guys pick up on those names. Yeah, Isaiah and Elijah. But anyway, thank you guys for letting us be here. You guys, here you go. All right, so like they said, I'm Tony, this is my wife Elizabeth, and we're just excited to be here tonight to share with you guys a little bit about our family. We've been blessed to receive these boys into our home, but the journey was very intriguing, and so we're just going to kind of take you on that journey with us, and it all starts when I was a kid. Right? I'm not going to tell you my whole life story, so don't worry about it. But I do want you guys to know that growing up in Puerto Rico with my family, just adoption was not really a big part of who we were. Not that we didn't like it, not that it wasn't important, it just, I didn't know about it. Until God brought me to Texas, I got to meet this beautiful woman right here. And as we started dating and eventually getting married, I started to notice that adoption was going to be a huge part of our life story.
Yeah, and I grew up in DeSoto, which is just south of here. And for me, when I was 7, my family adopted my brother, and he was just about to turn 3. So it had always been part of my family culture. And so we got married in December of 2011, and you know, like as he said, you know, we thought adoption would be part of our journey. We also thought we'd have biological kids. And so we'd been married about a year, and I thought, you know, I have this great plan. I'm going to get pregnant in about August or September, and then I'll give birth around the summer. And he was teaching at the time, so his summers off. And so, you know, it's be perfect. I'll have a newborn at home, he'll be there. And, you know, what I quickly realized is I was not in control at all. I'm very naive. But, and so that just took us on a journey for about 3 to 4 years of just, I don't know, just seeking like what's going on, like, you know, why are we having trouble? And even though adoption was in our hearts, I really had to take time to grieve and kind of heal from that, because I didn't want to just turn to adoption, you know, as like, you know, second choice, because that's absolutely not what it is. But I just also needed to take my time. He was ready before me for sure.
It's good to go.
I can remember the day, honestly, I finally felt like healing and like ready. It was through several conversations, both with Tony and with our pastor who had actually adopted him and his wife. And just, I remember that moment, I thought, okay, man, I'm ready, and that this is how God is going to grow our family.
So as soon as we found out, I was like, okay, let's go visit all these different adoption agencies. And we started looking and researching, and we were blessed to be in a church that had a lot of experience with adoption. So a lot of our friends had already told us, hey, check these people out. And one of our good friends, who actually works for Buckner, told us, hey, I'm kind of, you know, you should check this out. And we said, okay, well, we'll go check out what's going on at Buckner. And so we walk into beautiful offices and just a really nice environment. We're feeling really comfortable. And we're reading through the requirements of what it would take to be able to adopt through Buckner. And it says that you needed to be at least 4 years married, which was a big deal for us. When we looked at each other after we read that and smiled, because we went to go visit Buckner the day before our 4-year anniversary. And I mean, just like Clint was saying, it's in the details that you get to see the hand of God throughout this entire process. And that's just the first of it.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear you guys story too, because you just, you know, every story's unique and special, but there's a lot of things you can really connect with. And, you know, the paperwork, it took us about a year. And there's a lot of things to do, and you're right, like sometimes it feels like there's so many things, and then sometimes you're just waiting, and you're just like, okay, when is this gonna happen? But some of the things one of the things I appreciated really the most about our experience with Buckner was the training and the books we had to read, because although, you know, my brother was adopted, it was a closed adoption, because that's typically what was common at that time. And so, you know, I'd heard about open adoption, and honestly, I remember thinking, I don't know if I could do that. And there's a lot of fear, and it's just because I didn't understand it. And so honestly, I can say through that year, my perspective completely shifted. Where I was fearful of it, I began to understand the beauty and the hope that could come from it, to where I was excited about it. And we even had friends who had a closed adoption, and I felt sad for them because they were missing out on this blessing. So it's amazing to see how everything, I don't know, it just completely changes, like you say.
And so we go through the whole process, right? And it's excruciating. I mean, just for me it was, because I don't like to wait. I like things to happen right now. And I like to solve problems, and I like to get to them. And God was showing me throughout the entire process that, no, I mean, it is a moment to wait. But it's in that moment where God starts to work in our hearts, and we start to see just how important it is to go through every step. And there's a reason why the organization as a whole has all these procedures. And so we get to the end of it, and we finally get to the point where we are missing one last thing to get our position as a waiting family, and that's our booklet, right? We have a small profile book. It's kind of like a shutterfly type book where we get to express a little bit about who we are. And that's an awkward process. If you guys have any idea about what it's like, I mean, you have to put yourself out there, but you don't want to be too much of this or too little of that, and so we were extremely worried. But once again, so grateful for our adoption specialist who's here with us tonight, is Kristen, and she just encouraged us and said, hey, you got to stop trying to worry about who you're going to show yourself to be, and you just got to be yourself. You know, because there's going to be one specific thing, whether it's the fact that you're a Mavs fan, whether it's the fact that you that she was a piano teacher, whether it's the fact that you work with kids, whether it's the fact that you have dogs. I mean, there's going to be one thing that's going to make it so unique and special that the birth mom is going to say, these are them. And so that kind of like, okay, we get to be ourselves.
Yeah. And so then we finished it, and then you're just waiting. So like to some extent the year is difficult, but you're also like in control, which I kind of like. But then you're just waiting. So I remember the day distinctly when I went and dropped off the book and gave it to Kristen. It wasn't going to be a big deal, but I remember it so well because she said, we're counseling with several moms, and one of them is expecting twins. And instantly, like, my stomach filled with butterflies, and I just thought, because you fill out these papers and, these things that you're open to, and one of them was twins, and so, of course we're open, but in my mind, really, I thought, does this ever happen? And of course it's not going to happen to us. So then when she said that, it was really exciting, but then also keeping your expectations in check, or your heart in check. And that's just kind of part of the process too, because you don't know, but I left feeling, hopeful and excited to see, but honestly, you're just waiting to be matched, and it could take months, it could take a year.
And of course, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm the optimist in the whole relationship. So as soon as she told me that, I'm like, okay, first week of December, we're going to have these kids by Christmas. I mean, this is going to be great. And that wasn't the case. It was about the end of November when she turned that in, right after Thanksgiving. And we waited the entire month of December and honestly didn't really hear much. And come January 3rd, we get a call from Kristen, and she says, hey, we showed your profile, and the birth mom who's expecting twins, she really wants to meet you guys. And we're freaking out. Okay, this is the day before we leave on a big trip. I mean, talk about how God orchestrates every little thing. We were now celebrating our 5-year anniversary, and so we're going to go to New York to kind of just celebrate the life that God had given us together. And now it's completely changed. The whole reason we're going is not just to celebrate that, but now to find out and start imagining what's it going to be now that our family's about to go double.
Yeah, and so we were supposed to come home on Saturday. We had originally set the meeting to meet her on a Monday, but then it had to change to a Tuesday, which was great because we got snowed into New York, which, is not a terrible thing to have to spend a couple extra days in New York. So we just enjoyed our time. We got back on Monday night at 10 o'clock and left early Tuesday morning to drive a couple hours out to meet. And so it was really great. We were all together in a room. We had our adoption specialist, Kristen, and her maternity counselor, Holly, who is also here. And they were just so supportive and just getting to know each other. It's really informal. We talked about basketball. We talked about football. We talked about why she chose us, which she said that she liked that we worked with students, that were involved in the community, and that we didn't take ourselves too seriously. And so as I'm putting the profile book together before, I noticed we have a lot of pictures dressed up, just as I don't even know.
In costumes, in case you guys were wondering. Not like in suit, but like Princess Peach and Mario. That's
so I thought, I think this is a pretty evident part of our lives, so we should just make a whole little silly page. And so it was really cool to see that too. And it was just, and then afterwards, so we met for about an hour, just talked, and then we kind of separated and debriefed, each with our respective person from Buckner.
And so as we're going through that entire process, I'm asking Kristen, like, what did I do wrong? What could we could have done better or something like that? And we're just kind of hanging out and trying to debrief what had happened. And Holly walks in from across the hallway and says, yeah, she's good to go. What does that mean? That means that she's good to go. She wants you guys to be the boys' parents. And it's like, the baby's parents, because we weren't sure if it was 2 boys at the moment. But oh my goodness, I mean, now all of a sudden, it's not just something that we're expecting, it's not just something that we're imagining. Now all of a sudden she said, yes, you've been matched. That was a huge day for us. And you know, we're saying, okay, what do we need? I need at least a crib, I need a car seat.
Cribs and car seats.
We need 2 cribs and 2 car seats then. I mean, we gotta figure out what's gonna happen over the next few weeks.
Now, and then we met 2 weeks later, and another thing we really appreciate about Buckner is, you know, they've been doing this, and they realized that the hospital day is an emotional day. There's a lot going on, so we set up a meeting 2 weeks beforehand, and so first time we meet her to the day they're born is about a month. So like right in the middle, we meet, just talk about what's going to happen in the hospital and expectations, and who's going to hold the babies first, and what about names and circumcision, just all these things you wouldn't think about probably until it's right in front of you. And so honestly, you know, God had just put such a love in my heart for her, really. Like, not even just because she was potentially carrying our babies, but just a care and a burden for her. And so we went into that just wanting to do, because we know this is a brave and loving choice she's making, but it's not easy. And wanting to honor her and just kind of give her, like, what's best for her. But the one thing I was the names. And, you know, I was like...
I totally understand.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's the one thing that's going to be hard. But you know, we just have to go in. It's really not that important. But I have been reading through Luke, I think over Christmas, and in my quiet time, and talking about Elizabeth giving birth to John the Baptist. And so I remember reading about talking about how John would come in the spirit of Elijah. And just in that moment, I knew like our son's name should be Elijah John. And John's also a family name, and so we really like love that name.
And of course, I mean, we have one name, but we need 2. So what do we do with the second name? And I start remembering, we start talking about it, and just Isaiah 6:8 pops into our heads, because if you guys don't know the verse, it's the verse where Isaiah responds to God, and God says, who will I send? He says, hey, here am I, send me. And we want that to be the story of our family. We want to be ready and available for whatever God has for us. And so we want God to send us to do whatever it is that he needs us to do. And we knew that, you know, being these boys' parents was part of that. And so that's why Isaiah is a huge, also important part of why we chose that name specifically. But man, the fact that she heard the name, she heard the story behind them, and we had asked her, you know, what she wanted. She was like, I really don't have any specific names that I'm thinking of. And when we told her ours, she was like, these are perfect. That's exactly what I want. And so it was a really beautiful time to be able to talk about all that. But then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, you're on the way to the hospital, right? And we're driving 2 hours east. We're going, and I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we had talked in the room too. She's like, well, you can be in the room if you want. And I was like, well, I'll be in the room if you want me to. We just kind of were like, you know, I don't know. So we ended up deciding that I'd be in the room. I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure what to expect. But it was a really beautiful time. But then some complications happened, so they asked all medical personnel to step out. And so, and then the hospital staff was amazing. They like took my phone and took pictures of them when they were first born. So I step out and get Tony, and we're just waiting in the hallway, unsure of like, you know, okay, just waiting. And then they roll out 2 babies, and so we think, you know,
these have got to be ours, right? I mean,
right? And they look like dolls. To me, I was just like, is this even real? And so the nurses said, oh, would you like to hold them? And we wanted to honor what we had committed to. And so, of course, we wanted to hold them, but we were like, no, we're going to wait. And but they're like, okay, you can push the cart down to the nursery.
Like, okay, we'll push the cart.
Like, yes, let's do it.
Let's do that.
So it was really cool.
And so during this entire time, we're at the hospital, and just, again, so grateful for the way that Buckner just organizes this process of adoption, right? And they are there with us the entire time. Holly and Kristen would not let us be alone in the sense of if we needed them, they were there, right? And so we were able to get a room. We were able to spend these few days learning how to take care of kids, because I had no clue what I was doing. And so I'm trying to figure out what to do. And she's telling me, this is how you do it right. And I'm like, thank you, honey. And they come in and they tell us, because it's that 48-hour period, we're trying to figure out when these papers are going to be signed, because now I'm like, okay, we've had expectant hearts. There's always that fear of she can still choose to parent. And we were ready for that. Again, we had to go through the same process and say, God, if you had us to come to this family for this moment, to be here for this birth mom, to be here for these boys, then praise the Lord. But if not, and you want us to take them home, then praise the Lord as well. And they come in and they tell us, hey, they're filling out the birth certificate paperwork. And again, just in the details, how God is so powerful. She tells us that birth mom chose not just to put the names that we gave her, but to put our last names as their last name. So at that point, I mean, Kristen and Holly were telling us that's almost unheard of. That's really a great sign. And for Elizabeth, she knew. She's like, okay.
That's when I felt peace, and I was like, okay, I mean, this is happening.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. And I was just very fearful at the moment, And for me, where it really became evident was the moment where, not just evident, but really where my heart became very clear that these are our children, was the moment that we started signing the papers to take them home. I mean, I had the pen in my hand and just tears running down my face.
And for me, I think the most emotional part was after we had signed the placement papers, we went to say goodbye to the birth mom. We had talked about we're going to meet up twice a year, but we were saying goodbye in this moment in time. And just as we were walking to the room, I don't know, I just was trying to imagine what she must be going through, and I will never, but I don't know, it was really beautiful. We were able to, she took the boys to her, she spent some time alone with them, and then we took a picture, all Tony and I and the boys and her, and it's framed in their nursery, and it's been a really beautiful relationship. We've gotten to meet up twice so far with her other biological kids, and just like you said, there's no fear. It's really beautiful. It's been really.
It's crazy to see something that can bring you so much fear, and God just tells you, hey, just trust me. Just this is the process. This is the path that I want to take you on, and it's because it's His perfect path that you're in the greatest blessing, right? And that's what we feel. We have been blessed, right? We've been blessed by these two beautiful, handsome boys who are just sweet. If y'all haven't gotten a chance to go say hi to them, they'll just smile at you. It doesn't matter. They love everybody, and it's great.
Unless it's bedtime.
Unless it's bedtime, which is probably close. You know what?
But you can still say hi.
Yes. So it's been a blessing to get to know the birth mom as well. We've gotten to that point where it does feel like when we get together, it feels very normal and it's exciting. She actually texted us every month on the day that they were born on the 7th, and she would text us on the 7th of every single month to wish them happy birthday for the entire first year. On Mother's Day, she was the first one to text Elizabeth and congratulate her on being a first-time mom. She texted me on Father's Day congratulating me that being a first-time dad, and just all these things to see that no one else except for God could have orchestrated all of this. And we are just so thankful for how Buckner really worked in this entire process with her, right? Because Buckner counsels the birth mom, and while at the same time they take us through the journey along with them. And so, man, when we think about how Buckner has completely transformed, just having Buckner in our lives has completely transformed who we are. They're not just a blessing, but they've really formed the tapestry of what our family is. So I'm just so grateful that we get to share with you guys a little bit about what that was for us. Thank you.